Hey everybody, Scout Crafty here again. Today is Mish Mosh Monday. These are becoming my favorite episodes to do because I got a lot of stuff to do and little subjects. Let's get to it. Okay, first up we got this beautiful specimen to show you. I found this when I was cleaning up. It was underneath my my homemade table saw, and about 20 years ago a friend of my dad passed away, and my dad was able to get some of his stuff because his wife didn't know really what to do with it and she didn't want it. But this is one of the things my dad got, and it's a Makita cordless drill. And now the gentleman that passed away, his name was you could see here, Frank Luschner. And Frank was a genius of a guy. I mean, I can't tell you how much stuff he had, but he had this. My dad never would have went for a high-end drill like this at the time, but this is an old early and 7.2 volt, I believe. And when you have something here, 7.2 volt, and the funny thing is that, look at this. Now this is over 20 something years old, right? Because I don't know how long Frank had it. My dad's been gone for, this has got to be 25 years old, but listen to this. Charged batteries up, still works. These are, let me show you the type of battery they use here. I slip out here. Uses these type of battery packs, which is still available. And the best part is they're not totally expensive. Right? They're like 12 bucks a piece. See, now that is something that I could get on board with because, you know, okay, so if it lasts you a couple of years, it costs you 12 bucks for a new battery pack. I have no problem with that. It's when the battery packs cost $50, you know, that's when it starts getting a little bit crazy, right? But let's try it out and see how it works. Okay, we chucked up, this was a 1/4-inch snap-on. I never seen a snap-on drill bit before, but it was in the case. Frank always bought the top of the line stuff. This is a really, you can even feel the weight, the balance is really nice on this drill, but the handle's a little bit thick, but still, let's try it out. On here, that's a 1/4-inch bit. We'll see how it does. Okay, now you can see with the 7.2, it bogs down a little bit, but it did get through there. And these batteries, 25 years, I'm surprised the thing even runs. You know, I don't know what the RPMs on this thing is, but pretty impressive, you know, that it still works after all this time. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Okay, next up, my buddy Jesse from upstate New York got a big machinist lot of all kinds of great tools and stuff. And he saw a bunch of this stuff in there, and you know, he knows it's for kind of clamping, but he was just wondering how it works. And he says, you know, he has no use for it. Basically, it comes, they usually come in a set like this. This is a Chinese set. But let me show you what it's for. They're pretty interesting. Next, we're going to travel over to the drill press here. Now, this is, without a doubt, one of the best items you can have in a shop, a must-have. Of all the tools that I have, this is probably one of the most used tools. A drill press is by far a tool that everybody should have. Let me go over some of the basics. Now, a lot of times when you buy a drill press, you'll see a table. A lot of the inexpensive ones come with just a cast iron table that look like this, but on your better ones, there's some features on the table alone that are very interesting. First of all, the table will swivel, obviously from left to right, and you could raise it up and lower it with a handle here, and then you lock it in on the side there. When at rest, you always try and keep your drill press so that the spindle is above the hole, because you don't want any peck marks or holes from, you know, having the table off center or something. So always, when you finish, center up your table and lock it down so if somebody comes in, puts a drill in, they're not drilling a hole or somewhere else. But if you notice here, there's a lot of thought that went into this. First of all, you can see it's milled flat. You can see these milling marks here very closely. You can see the swirling pattern. Well, that's because this is all milled flat, and this is a perfectly flat surface. Now, when you first get your drill press, you're going to have to do some setup to make sure that the table, because it does swivel left and right, so you want to make sure that it's flat according to your quill. And it's a very simple setup, but a lot of people don't do that, and that's how you make sure your holes are perpendicular to the surface. And now when setting up your drill press and you have it all set up and everything, you see these grooves in here, around here, that's for coolant. And if you want to put some coolant in, it'll drain down here, and it actually is tapered, and there's a little hole in the back here. If you look, there's a little hole back there, and that hole is threaded, and you could put a little pipe that will drain the fluid out so that you could reuse it. But here is where the T-slots are, and that's what we're going to talk about now. Anytime you have a piece of machinery, a milling machine, or any kind of a professional machinery or big machinery, and it even has it on the drill presses and things, you'll see on the edge, they have a little profile. If you look at it like this, it looks like a T. So I don't know why upside down, they still call it it's a T-slot. And that's what these these little nuts, that's a T-nut that slips into here. You see, it would slip right into that T-nut, and I'll show you how you would hold work down on a drill press. Now, included in these sets are these little things called step blocks, and if you look very closely, they have little grooves in it, and these grooves are shaped in such a way that when you put this here, you could see how it matches up. It'll match up perfectly. You see that? And that'll match up and hold it, and you can, it's like steps all the way up. You can match it wherever you want. Remember that when we get over to the drill press. If I wanted to hold this piece of steel onto the drill press, you know, obviously you can't hold it by hand, and let's say you didn't have room to put a vise on here and bolt the vise down. One way you would do it is this. Now, if you wanted to set up the hole down, all you do is you take it's a threaded stud here, you screw it into the T-nut. Okay, now you slip the T-nut in the little slot here like this. Then you take a little toe clamp like this and press it onto here, and take your little step, you see this step here, and line it up here with the grooves. Now when you put the nut on here, it'll clamp down the force. You can move this in and out to where you want it to be comfortable. And when you put the nut on here and use your wrench, it'll tighten it down, and then it takes a while. Setup is always the longest part of any machining operation, but once you have everything squared away and you're happy with the way it feels and tight, and give it a snug down, this is super solid and isn't going anywhere. You could drill into it. Now, the beauty of such a system comes through when you're clamping down oddball shapes or unusual shapes that would be hard to grip in a vise. Now, if ever you get an opportunity to see a real machinist use this set to its fullest capacity, it's just amazing how they can clamp things down so that they can mill on it and drill on it, and it's just a thing of beauty to see when it's done right. But this is just an intro just to show you what these things could be used for, and I hope it helps out. Next up, I'm a big fan of Craftsman tools, always have been. My dad had a whole bunch, and I know that Craftsman is supposed to be redoing their whole tool line and said it's better and we're not making junk anymore. Let me show you a couple here. The V series. Years back, Craftsman made a series called the V series. You could see here is the Craftsman, and over here you could see the V when it had marked on their ratchets. This is a breaker bar, and this here is a little spin ratchet here, and these have become extremely collectible. But you notice here it's got the metal turn indicator for off and on, and you can see here the model number and forged in the USA. But they tried to remake this, and I was at Lowe's the other day, and oh, you have to look at this. Now, because the V-Series was so popular, I guess they figured they'd reintroduce it, but they'll change the selector switch from metal to plastic, because that way it could shear off much easier, and maybe sharpen up the handle a little bit so that it'll bite into your hand, give you a better grip. That sharp area you could see. It's horrible. The fit and finish on this wrench. And you know what? I'm a Craftsman fan. I love stuff that, you know, companies made in the U.S. and stuff. But if this is the best Craftsman can do, they need to get out of the game. They just need to shut the doors and pull out, because this is just horrible and an embarrassment to the Craftsman name. Now, I don't want to end the video on a sour note because of the Craftsman, but do you remember these? This is, when I was a kid, sitting in a barber shop, they had these in every barber shop that you would go to as a kid, and this is a new old stock version. It's in plastic, but they had these hanging in the wall, and there was a price over here of what it would cost. It was Ajax, and it was out of Pennsylvania, and they were unconditionally guaranteed, and you could see this strong guy couldn't bust them. So, I mean, I had, I don't know how many of these as a kid when you used combs, you know, I guess. I just wonder if anybody else remembers these, but I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Hope you have a nice day. Take care, and bye-bye.